little bit of a developmenting story. It seemed like that some people woke up to on the interwebs or whatever we want to call it today. But it did develop around one of the most iconic events of the western side of the United States, the USAC Western World, that was previously held at ET Arizona. Of course, that track going away, and it was fortunately picked up by Cocopah. But apparently there is a situation that some people are not too happy about. Some people are saying it's a little disrespectful, apparently, to some of these sprint car traditionalists to have sport mods and hobby stocks on the docket. And we have actually reached out, and luckily enough, the promoter of the event, the facility, Brad Whitfield of Cocopah Speedway, has called in. And Brad, it seems like you probably didn't expect to wake up to this today, and obviously I feel like you knew you were taking on a pretty big event that a lot of people pay attention to over there in Arizona. Sprint cars are a big deal. What is the whole scenario, situation, idea? You've been seeing all the comments and things that I've been seeing as well. What's your perspective on the situation?
Well, Chaz, first and foremost, thanks for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate that. And we were given the opportunity to bring the Western World to Cocopah Speedway. We started talking about this in February. And, USAC, I talked to Kurt, and, midgets was not an option. And they even said at last year's event that midgets would not run with the Western World in 2022. So obviously that kind of shot, that portion of the show in the foot, for lack of better words. And we started kind of digging and looking at schedules and stuff. And at that time, Central Arizona Speedway had some non-wing stuff scheduled. Canyon Speedway Park had some non-wing stuff scheduled. So we didn't have anything really to choose from to keep it more of a traditional event. So we kind of looked back at what we did in January when we had the CRA show come in, and we ran the hobby stocks and the sport mods with it. Well, Chaz, as you well know, sprint car racing produces rubber at times. Well, we kind of looked at what we did. Hobby stocks, IMC hobby stocks have a small radial tire. Well, that small radial tire kind of chews up the racetrack. It peels up any rubber that starts to get laid down on the racetrack. And it worked really, really nice. I mean, the racetrack was smooth, it was fast, and it did not rubber until about 2 laps to go with the sprint cars. So we chose to go that route. We worked with USAC diligently in the best case scenario at that time. As we all now know that, Central Arizona Speedway, the former promoters chose not to renew their contract the first part of September. And Canyon recently just shut their doors. I believe they made that announcement for certain yesterday morning or Wednesday morning.
Yeah, was that a shock to some people on that one? That one seemed to hit people out of nowhere, kind of.
I think there was still just a lot of hope that it wasn't going anywhere. I mean, losing 2 racetracks, within a year span, I mean, that's a devastating blow to racing in Arizona. And back to the Central Arizona Speedway racetrack, I've changed the name back to Central Arizona Raceway. I received the lease on that. I've got it for the next 5 years. Could we have gone ahead and scheduled non-wing race, another non-wing class with the Western World? Essentially, we could have, but we still had Canyon that had some non-wing stuff on their docket, and I did not want to be that guy. And it just didn't do it. And really, 30 to 45 days out, to me, just isn't enough time, ample time to make that big of a change so guys could plan accordingly. I did the best I could with what was laid out. I'm still grateful for all of the USAC guys that are here, the support we're given. But I'll tell you, I mean,
it seems like the sport mod and hobby stock guys are taking offense. I mean, and it is something where sprint cars are kind of losing their, presence in Arizona, and really Southern California as well is suffering from the same thing.
Right.
You know, obviously sprint cars do, it seems like, bring a better front gate for a promoter. A lot of people see a lot of the fender classes in that area as a back gate scenario.
Sure.
But it's a situation that comes across as, to me, it's like even the racer that was posting about it, Kyle Shipley, he's a racer who's left the area. You know, he's not even in Arizona anymore. He went to Indiana.
And that kind of took me by surprise a little bit. And I called around because, I even commented on somebody's post that I would know him if he walked up to me and started talking to me. But I assure you, if he was here today, I'd give him $50 disrespectfully and ship him home, because he's not going to come to my racetrack and disrespect me and the classes that I have support this racetrack and this event. Well, it's just not going to happen.
Well, and there's probably, and I'm a big proponent of saying how, you know, local racing or even high-level dirt racing is, you know, the drivers behind the wheel are possibly, you know, Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers. They just didn't have millions of dollars to go to NASCAR. And the same situation happens most of the time with maybe there's probably half the sport mod and hobby stock drivers that would love to race sprint cars. They just don't have the money for one. They're not cheap.
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. There's no doubt about it. But I can guarantee you, Chaz, you know, and you'll probably tune in tonight. If you don't, I hope you do. If you hadn't planned on it, I hope you do. This will indeed be some of the best racing in Arizona on the West Coast. I mean, these guys put on a good show.
Well, and Cocopah seems to be one of those tracks that isn't going to go away. You can kind of like the track if you want to, because a lot of the other tracks, it seems like in Arizona, is just you know, going away or hit and miss, or it seems like ever since Manzanita went away, as far as sprint car fans are concerned, you know, and even apparently now with Canyon and all the other tracks going down, it's coming pretty scarce in that area of the country.
It is. I have a long-term deal with Cocopah Tribe to keep Cocopah Speedway going. We got a 5-year deal at Central Arizona Raceway, you know, and I want to bring more sprint car stuff there. But now it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. Am I going to get, you know, reprimanded or ridiculed or whatever for not having a class that they think I should have? You know, so it kind of puts a bad taste in a promoter's mouth, you know, to have that type of negativity. But it's even worse when you're not even at my facility to say it. If you're not here, I guess what I'm trying to say, if you're not here, how can you sit and talk shit about my show?
Well, and there was, granted, obviously he does have a reach in Arizona. He is from Arizona. You had some other drivers who are there in that area, you know, kind of jumping on his bandwagon, saying so. Sprint car fans are just so traditionalist, and I'll tell you what, you know, a lot of people like to joke in the political world, bring the left and the right together and everybody just get along. I swear, if dirt track racing could work this relationship out between sprint car and fendered fans, we'd have the biggest, you know, conglomerate war machine to take on the racing motorsports world there is. There's such a damn wall in between them. It's insane.
And I just don't get it. I laid there this morning when I rolled over and read that. I was just thinking, why? You know, I mean, what is the biggest? What is that wall? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. What is the biggest wall between sprint car and fendered cars? I can't grasp it.
Well, I know the fendered guys call them push and flips. It looked like, you know, just doing a little research on you, it looked like you raced at one time, and it seems like you were a fendered guy. So is this you taking a shot at the sprint car world? No, I'm just kidding. But it seems like you've actually been behind the wheel a little bit.
I have. I did quite a bit of racing from 1992 until 2017. Raced everything from a bomber to a super late model. Never got into a sprint car because, well, you said it earlier in the show.
Can't afford them.
Just didn't have that money to do it. You know, and I'll be honest with you, those guys are pretty ballsy, you know, and hey, if you ain't got it, I'm the first one to admit it. I ain't fast enough and smart enough to drive one of them things.
Well, you apparently can't be too smart to get into one either. You got to be, have a few screws loose. I don't know if you've had a conversation with Kyle Shipley, but he definitely meets the criteria. No, I'm just kidding. But
no, you're correct. It was never in the budget to do that type of racing. I've never had any animosity towards sprint cars. Just didn't know a lot about them just because I couldn't afford it. So if you can't afford it, why go touch it?
Right. Yeah. Especially. So it seems like this is a situation of that wall. If it was midgets, it would be fine. If it was something that wasn't a fendered car, it would be fine. And I saw how you noted that USAC said midgets ain't coming.
Right.
And you're kind of just stuck with trying to get some kind of support class. These guys in the sprint cars have to turn their cars around. I mean, a lot of people don't understand, why can't you just run one class? Well, if you run one class, you're going to have 15 to 20 minutes of downtime throughout the night, and nothing's going to be happening on the racetrack because the cars still have to turn them around. You can only go so fast from a heat race to a B main. So you got to put something out there on the racetrack. And Sport Mods and Modified, with the things that y'all have going on, of course, I believe y'all have that big Winter Nationals in January coming.
Yes, sir.
So y'all have a good fender crowd support base.
Yes, we do.
It obviously doesn't get, the glamour of the sprint car world in that area, but it is something where a lot of the Iowa guys come down. Obviously, Iowa is where IMCA is the big home base for all this stuff.
Yep.
Y'all are the home of Ricky Thornton Jr.
For
But
sure.
I mean, it seems like, if you could get that fendered credibility up there, these guys wouldn't care. But it just seems like that stigmatism is just what's killing it.
Right. No. And Chaz, you're 100% correct. At the end of the day, and I'm gonna have to get going. At the end of the day, we had the Western World. We have it. It is in Arizona, where it's been for 55 years this weekend. And we'll do our best to continue that tradition. Hell, maybe next year we put the quarter midgets on the quarter mile and on the little quarter mile track here, and maybe Kyle Shipley will be happy.
Well, I don't know. He had some issues with Chad Boat back in the day in quarter midgets out there in Arizona. But
Is that the truth?
It's apparently. Well, that is the case. I mean, there isn't even another place logically for this race to go. So isn't it something where these guys should maybe appreciate still having the damn race in the state at all, period?
And that's kind of what my hopes, and I guess I'm going to say that my dreams were. When you get ready to put on an event like this with such prestige and history to it, I did a lot of YouTube searching and going back. At 2:00 the other morning, I was awake, sitting on the couch watching Wendy McDonald, the voice of Manzanita Speedway, call the 2006 Western World. It don't get no damn better than that. I mean, Wendy McDonald saying, the USAC Western World Championships, that's something that still puts chills on my body. And I'm a part of that. Cocopah Speedway is a part of that. The guys that are here, even those sport mods, even those hobby stocks, they're proud to be a part of it. So why can't everybody just kind of put their arms around another, sing a little verse of Kumbaya, and let's go have some fun, put on a hell of a show for these fans.
Right, definitely. Hey, just get some respect for the sport mod and hobby stock guys. That's I guess that's the first step to really fixing it. And if you can't get some, give some.
No, 100%, 100%.
All right, so are y'all? It is going to be. I believe this race will be broadcasted on Flow. So if no one could get there physically, they could still watch the event. Yes.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, because I believe it is a USAC event. And how many cars are you expecting for the sprint car division?
36 to 40.
36 to 40. Okay.
We had 34 sprint cars check in on time last night, and track record was broke 3 times. Brady Bacon ended up coming to end with it at 16.019. Just some good fast cars here, and everybody, I think the 22 of them were within about 0.2 of one another.
Nice. And that's somewhat hard to get in non-wing racing sometimes, just because it is on the downward swing. The wing racing's taken over so much nowadays.
Sure.
But that's great. Obviously, I believe a champion will be crowned this weekend too out there with the USAC sprint cars.
Yes,
so
sir.
that'll be a good deal. Well, I mean, thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in. Kyle Shipley, I know him. He's a few screws loose, but obviously there's a lot of people over there who have the same opinion as him. and like you said, you're just trying to like give somebody something, basically keep the race there, and more people should probably appreciate that than what they ain't getting or getting.
I appreciate your time, sir, and you hit the nail on the head.
Alrighty, well, thank you, and we'll catch you later there, Brad.
Thanks, Chaz. Take care.
So that was Brad Whitfield with the Cocopah Speedway. Of course, a lot of racing going on there this weekend. And then over the winter, of course, Cocopah going to be having their big Winter Nationals occur out there this January coming up as well. Bunch of racing action going on. I believe it's Race Cocopah Speedway that you can check all that out. RaceCocopahSpeedway.com. That is correct, that you can go check out more information. Of course, the off-season racing that can occur over there is just, a pretty good deal. So not only do they have the Western World this weekend, but they still have racing to continue throughout the month out there at Cocopah. They got the Keith Bryan Memorial. Of course, 360 Wing Sprint Cars will be there for that one. And then a Turkey Classic coming up to round out the year. And then Winter Nationals start January 3rd out there at Cocopah Speedway. We'll tune over to the comments just a little bit here. Hold on, let's see. Get over there to the live chat that's happening here on the screen. We'll get them up on the board. Paul Meek says, the thing is there's just not much competition in sprint car racing. Yeah, there's a lot of money, but you can usually tell who's going to win the race by looking at the entry list. And Nitson or Dustin said, what do you mean? I think what he means by that is it costs so much to race that there's not a lot of competitors. You know, I make this argument with NASCAR. I brought it up there with Brad, how NASCAR is so much easier to compete and win in because they are a very small pond. To even go and swim in the NASCAR pond, you need $20 million. So, if you don't have $20 million, you can't go swim. And that means that's a very small pond because there's not too many people that want to invest $20 million to even go and compete over there. Same thing with this sprint, and that's a microcosm of the entire, or actually emphasized version, because with sprint cars, you got to have so much money to compete. Therefore, there's only so many people who could compete in that pond. And then when you get to the hobby stock and sport mod level, it's a little bit cheaper, so more people can afford to compete in that pond. So the lake's a little bit bigger. There's a lot more fish in that sea that you're going to have to compete against because the price to play is not as much as the sprint car industry. I think that's what Paul Meeks is trying to say here. And he follows it up. CCR Sports says, I'm unclear as to whom is upset and what they're upset about. Sprint car guys mad about hobby stocks, or hobby stocks mad about sprint cars. The issue at hand was that sprint car traditionalists were upset that there are sport mods and hobby stocks even on the docket. We led the show out with that. Sorry if you tuned in a little bit late, but that is the situation that was occurring. Let's be happy that there's street stocks, hobby stocks, super stocks, and four bangers. This is the backbone that keeps dirt racing moving. This is very true. And we also had a hidden comment by Big Daddy Mac that said, Kyle Shipley can shut the F up. He barely makes local shows in Indiana. And oh my God.